This will be part 1.5 of my video series on Final Fantasy XI. This video will talk a lot less about gameplay / combat compared to the first video, since I explained everything I needed to there. This will be about the main story missions for Windurst and Bastok, as I did not feel it would be good to skip those two before going into the first expansion. I recommend watching the last video to get a grasp of what's going on if you've never played 11 before. Other than that, I'll be starting with Windurst first, and like Sandy, there is a cutscene that will play that explains a bit about the nation. Also, post-editing careful here. I've been playing this game for 6 years, and I never knew that Windurst was pronounced as Windurst. For 6 years, nobody has corrected me when I called it Windrust, so you're gonna hear me say it wrong throughout the video, and I'm sorry. The Federation of Windrust, an ancient capital nurtured by the boughs of a great tree, blessed by magical waters, and protected by the moons and stars. There is a legend in this country, and a time forgotten, a people forced to wander by starvation and cold were led to this place by a wondrous star. When the star returned to the heavens, it sent to Earth a spiritual medium, the first star sibyl, who could hear his voice. She promised Windrust glory and prosperity. With each passing eon, the people came to excel at magic more and more, giving Windrust far greater wisdom and power. 5 ministries, each specializing in a school of knowledge, became politically influential institutions that elevated Windrust to be the city of academics. In recent years, new bonds were made with the roaming tribes of Mithras, causing Windrust to become even bigger than before. But the people's wishes remain unchanged, lasting peace, eternal tranquility, under the watch of the far-off stars. And now, a new hope has been given to this earth. What is about to begin is an enduring tale woven by that star. After that, some stars will be talking to each other, presumably the top brass. Similar to the Sandy intro, they talk about someone being late before running off in the Star Sibyl's guard. She gives us a quick rundown before leaving us be. I think Windrust was designed for newer players, as it explains to me what a gate guard does. And throughout some of the early missions, they repeat that I should bring friends along on multiple occasions. To do a quick aside, let's talk about the people of Windrust. Mithras are the cat girls of the game, and tend to roll their R's when they talk. They are mostly female race, only a handful of males exist, and Tyros are basically just insufferable with how they talk. Some have compared them to children, but I don't think that's quite the case, but it can feel like that sometimes. Now that we got that out of the way, we can start doing our missions. Our first mission is to go down to the Harututu ruins to help out an experiment, but first we need to talk to someone for more info. But the professor, or whatever, has gone ahead. Now we have to go rush over there. They claim it's very dangerous, but I think a level 50 black mage can handle it. On the way there, I found some roaming NPCs that were summoners, and they walked around with a Leviathan avatar. It's a pretty cool sight, but we got other things to worry about. The ruins are pretty neat for being older than Windrust, though it being filled with goblins is less than ideal. The first cutscene starts off pretty strong. A brother and sister Tarus are arguing. The brother, Ajito, wants to figure out how to make a new magic to defend themselves. He's still upset about the Great War 20 years ago, and wants to build the defenses as the older generation of mages are becoming too weak to try and fight, or have apprentices. The sister, Apuru, thinks that he's crazy for trying to create new magic, that Windrust is at peace, and the experiment has been killing off some mages due to their sheer power. Ajito just brushes it off before the sister leaves, saying she doesn't care what happens to him. But as for the mission itself, it seems the machine isn't working right now, and it's our job to repair it, which is easy enough. We just have to find one of the broken orbs and bring it back in for repairs. It's random which machine is broken, and it took 6 tries of watching the stupid cutscene to tell me I was wrong, but once getting it, I warp back. Once returning the orb, we're told that Ajito is still mad, but we still get thanked for returning the mana orb. The next mission involves us helping out the staff of the people who are creating the automaton guards you may have seen around. Apur gives us a scoop. To power any of these automated guards, they require mana orbs, but these are not easy to get. Not as exciting as the Sandy quest so far, but no worries, let's keep going. Before we enter, we'll get some instructions of how to charge the orb, though it's not really a puzzle. You just have to place the orbs in the right spot and check behind the wall. After that, we had to annoyingly walk back to each of the charging stations to pick up the orbs again before we can leave. But on our way out, we start getting thugged by one of the automatons, saying to give their heart and souls, the orb, else we want to lose our heart and souls. After giving the orb, we report back what just happened. Apparently those thieves were actually old automatons during the war that escaped and gone wild. The weird thing is that a mage has to use their power on the orbs to give the automatons life, so stealing from them would be a waste of time. Regardless, we have a new mission to do. They want us to help them with giving tributes to the Yakutas. They do give items as a way of making peace, but it seems more like a way to begrudgingly give items instead of a mutual agreement. But we gotta head over to someone to grab the items first. The Saru talks and rhymes and gives us some food and drinks. We'll have to head over to Gideus to offer said tribute, though for some reason, we have to talk to two different Yagudos to give them their gifts, which seems rather unproductive. The first Yagudo doesn't give us a thanks, just insults us before being told to kick rocks. Whatever. Going to the second Yagudo, we get taunted to send more people to give us free stuff, and not much else is said. We run back to tell them that we finish, but we eavesdrop on a conversation with the Jido, wanting to open up some hidden gates to unlock the powers he seeks, along with perhaps finding out the truth about the expedition, but he quickly scurries off once we are noticed. We get a thanks and told to head back to the gate guard to complete the mission. The gate guard is happy that they found a good person to help with the mission, before giving us rank 2. Similar to Sandy, in order to complete more missions, you get to give crystals to the gate guard or do repeatable missions. Since we have a lot of crystal sacks, we'll be doing that. The next mission starts with people from the library calling out for help from a highly capable adventurer, and I think we fit the bill. Quickly heading over there, we get told our simple mission. In this library, there's books of such power that not even the superiors are allowed to open it, but one very important book that was missing during the Great War 20 years ago has apparently been spotted by a cat burglar, and while the sources aren't reliable, the book is of so much importance that we're still sent off to investigate. After finding the supposed Mithra, saying she will only let us see the book if we go out to Taharagni Canyon to find some coral for her. Once past the general area of Windurst, there's a lot more mountain areas, well compared to Sandy. Once exploring the caves for a bit, there's 5 rocks in this specific area, and it's random which one has it, but after guessing the correct one on the 4th try, we get the coral, and now we have to go back. But instead of giving us the book, as per our deal, she tells us to meet her at a hideout to do the transaction. Whatever. It's not too far away. Once finding the hideout, we learn that we've actually been tricked and are now being robbed, which is only the second time this has happened to us since the campaign started. They were using the book as a way to trick fresh-faced adventurers, but before we get robbed, the able automatons come back, saying that we stole from their comrades and they demand their items back. And even after telling them the location, the automatons still want to fight, but at the last second, a Jido comes in and break up the fight. This whole thing is escalating quickly. Once getting rid of one of them, the automatons leave in peace, but a Jido ponders if they're after the forbidden magic as well. Thanks to him, we're able to escape from the robbery in one piece, and after returning, we go to check out an old home in the Windrust. A Jido finds a book, after first thinking it was just a fake, but once realizing all the pages were gone, he freaks out, telling us to return back to the library to explain to the chief now all the pages are blank. Once checking back with the librarian, we're told that it's actually really bad that the pages are blank, as it means the shadows of destruction are upon us, though he also believes that Jido is lying in order to keep the book to himself. Heading back to the gate guard, we'll get our next mission. This is very similar to one of Sandy. We're once getting our orders from some higher-ups, this time being in Heaven's Tower, but we send off to the 2 other nations. The receptionist doesn't think we can actually do the job due to our rank, and we're almost pushed away, but at the last moment, the leader comes in clutch to help us get the job, not caring that we're only rank 2. Before being sent off, we're given a direct warning that we shouldn't do any actual combat, as we're a peaceful nation, and we don't want to be involved in anything. That's easy enough. We'll go to Bastok first. Since we've already seen it, we can speedrun it. The council at Windrust seems to be slightly losing it, calling the humans in Galka filthy, and wishing to get out of this, quote, backwoods to somewhere better. Regardless, in order to study Bastok, we're given the same orders from before from Pius, saying we're a spy and stuff, and then go talk to Grom, who also says the same thing, explaining to us how to get the machine to work to get the ore that we want, and gifts us with some picks to make it happen. We also meet Line here, saying that she's going to the mines as well, and that the mines are the Quadav's home, and they're fighting to defend it. They're not just interested in fighting the Humes. Since we've already been here, I already have the warp to get here quickly. It's also not required to actually mine the ore itself. We can just buy it and then use the machine. Before I head out to the mines, we end up meeting a person who's completely new to the game itself. We check chatted for a bit before they joined the LS. After that, I then made my way to the mines, placing the gravel into the refinery, and after walking down and pulling the lever to get it, we simply walked back to the Wendy's embassy. They study it, saying that it's a great material, before giving us the thanks, and tell us to head over to Sandoria. First, we have to go to the embassy in Sandy to be told that we have the clearance to finally enter the chateau, but we're also told that the Sandy is currently dealing with royal family problems, and citizens are trying to cope with the current war. Regardless, we'll go talk to Halver, a familiar person. We're told that the orcs are starting to become a bit smarter now, using ranged attacks and machines, which is rather alarming, so we're told to go scope it out. Within the orcs camp, there's a cave system called the Yagat Grotto. This is a massive shortcut that we have to get out of the grotto to re-enter it for the fight. We find that Rock Fawn is still looking for a sword, thinking that the orcs have it, but the fight itself is really easy, even easier than before, since we're level 50 now. Lion shows up to inform us that the dragon is from the Northlands, the same place where the war with the Shadow Lord took place. It's supposed to be sealed. Outside of that, we gotta return our report. While we would like to return in the report directly to the Star Sibyl, we can't, but at least we can become a full-fledged adventurer and get rank 3. Quickly getting some more crystals from home, we traded in it to start the next quest. We're told that we have been summoned directly from the Star Sibyl themselves, so we should go hurry up to not keep them waiting. Despite QPP not really believing in us, they led us through the door to the upper level. Place I've never been to before. It's a long staircase walk though, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. Once at the top, we meet a mystical Star Sibyl living in a planetarium, able to sense the world with the help of the stars. We're told that the Sibyl felt the potential of the Shadow Lord's return, but we shouldn't say a word to other people. Moments later, Ajito comes in with a book, showing them that the pages are in fact blank, and the Mithras refuse to actually do anything, making Ajito upset, saying that he will. Though Samei here brands him as a traitor, and our mission is to trail him to see what he's trying to do next. Taking a quick pit stop, we'll be talking to Kuro here, telling us that Ajito packed for a long journey, meaning he wasn't going to the ruins. This is quite weird, and they assume that he found the true place of the Full Moon Mountain, which may be in Castle Astroja. Thankfully, we have the warp there from an earlier adventure, so it doesn't take too long to get there. Once falling down the trap hole, you find Ajito, a little beat up. We learn that the book itself instructions for when a new Sibyl is to take its place, but now the pages are blank. He went here to try to find any more evidence of the page, or something similar, but defeated from being stuck, he leaves us, which lets us go back to the Heaven's Tower, but not before picking up an old ring key item, which will be very important for a much later quest chain. We're summoned again to the Heaven's Tower, this time by the head lady in waiting herself, basically like a princess to a queen. We're told that the Star Sibyl has been having bad future thoughts, making her sick in bed, fearful of the future of Windurst. We're given a charm and told to explore the depths of the ruins to find more answers. I learned I could have actually skipped the mission. I need to form a party of 3 different mages, or have someone who's completed the mission open the gates for you, but it seemed like nobody in my LS did the quest, so I asked in the Yell chat and actually found somebody to help me open the gates. Big shoutouts to Deity for opening the gates for me and letting me enter the faster way, on top of just being a super nice person. We learned that Ajito's hideout is deep within the ruins, and that these guardians are from his father, and that they are to protect the seal that stopped the Shadow Lord from returning. He's shocked that the Star Sibyl has fallen ill and runs off to the Full Moon Mountain for more info. He hints that perhaps his father is still alive, working on the guardians as his last hurrah. Regardless, we'll head back to the Heaven's Tower to tell Zubaba that the talisman is still there, safely guarded. However, they think there's still something wrong, as the Star Sibyl is still not feeling well, but that's not for us to worry about. So we're told good job, and that's that. If you get the food item Roll and Berry and trade it to QPP, you can also get the key item that opens the gate, in case you ever need to come back or to help somebody else. The mission is once again at the Heaven's Tower. This time, we're given a star-crested letter, meaning that this is of utmost importance. We meet with the Star Sibyl herself, giving us the task to go to Juno as an attaché, the same thing as Sandy. We get the same cutscenes with Wolfgang berating us, and Monbaru wanting to check up on them, but the ambassador is out right now. We have to make our way to Difficult Tower once again, but we don't have to do the climb like we did the last time, as we already have the key item. Once finding him, we go back to the embassy. I know it seems like I skimmed this section, and it's because it's A1 and 1 as Sandy, to the point where I didn't feel like it was necessary to talk about it again. Now we have to go turn in some more crystals for the next quest. And just like Sandy, the next mission starts with the receptionist, and we get told to talk to the Archduke. After some words about gathering the Magicite, we head off to Aldo. Though this time, he only gives us some brief words about the places being dangerous, completely removing the cutscenes about the beasts being driven out. I was going to get the key items this time, but then Deity, the champ they are, decided to help out again. I won't be showing the cutscenes as it's also the same thing as Sandy, so I'll just jump ahead to the ending. We'll get 20k instead of an airship pass, but the ending is the same. Told Windurst is under attack and to hurry back. Once returning back to the Heaven's Tower, we'll get another cutscene. The overall plot is the same. 3 seals are owned by the 3 nations that are holding back the Shadow Lord, but it seems that the Windurst one has been taken recently, assumed by the Yagudos. Regardless, we have to go to Feyen to investigate, and Zed and Lion are back with the same conversation. Deity was fine with staying to help out with the fight, so it was pretty quick compared to when I did it. After another cutscene we've already seen, we'll head back to the Star Sybil. After explaining that the seal is gone, they want to discuss it with the council, and that's about it. After turning in a few more crystals, we get our last quest, which requires us to talk to the Star Sybil. She says that Windurst is too peaceful and won't enter a war, especially after years of trying to have a good relationship with the Yagudos. But since we're not directly in the army, she sent us to deal with the Shadow Lord. The fight remains the same, so I'll just skip to the end. Deity did once again help out with the fight, making this even easier than the last time. Once we return back to the Star Sybil, we get paid a cool 2k, get congratulated for our time, and that's that. I know the last few missions went by fast, and I do apologize. The main story picks up after the Shadow Lord is defeated, but that won't be until a later video when I circle back on them, but there's still Bastok to go through. Just like with Wendy, we have to head on over to the immigration NPC so we can get our starting cutscene. In the Gustaberg Mountains of South Quan lies the industrial nation known as Republic of Bastok. Compared to Sandoria, with its legendary order of knights, or Windrust, with the ancient institution of magic, Bastok is still but a newborn nation. But advanced technologies and near limitless underground resources have allowed Bastok to rival the other 2 nations in power. Innovative and adaptable, humans make up more than half the population of Bastok. With their flair for industry, economy, and politics, they were a driving force behind Bastok's rapid growth. Even now, humans hold the key positions in those areas. The Galka, a race of hulking humanoids, comprises a third of Bastok's population. Originally hailing from Zepwell, they came from the land over 600 years ago. Without their incomparable strength, the countless ore mines that drive Bastok's economy would have never been dug. Adventurers seeking fame and fortune flock to the rising nation. Like Bastok, you are one of them. Your story begins here, amid the smoke and bustle of the industry city of Bastok. This guy Hani here was looking for directions, but got ignored by some Galkas before wishing us good luck. Soon, a Galka named Diog walks up to us. He does not like outsiders much, but we're saved by a small Galka named Gumba. You may remember him from the last video. They're a lot more friendly to new people compared to Diog. Regardless, he leaves us alone, and now we start our adventure. I forgot to hit record, but our first mission of Bastok is to head to the mines and collect a report from the overseer who's deep into the mines. After walking through the mines, we get the report and get told to hand it off to Naji, one of the Mithril musketeers. The report was about how the Galkas believe that Tailkeeper is back among them. They choose not to tell the president, as it's considered a trivial matter, but we're let off and start our next mission. Our next mission involves the head engineer, Sid. If you guys were worried that he'd never show up in this game, well, here he is. We just never had a reason to go see him. Though, after you see him, you may choose to not want to see him again with those weird teeth of his. It's like it's glued on his model and it's just isn't right, but he wants us to take some device to check the acidity levels of something. We're going to a place that used to be a hot spring, but has since been taken over by the monsters, called the Dangruf Wadi. You have to do some waiting on geysers to go up and down in order to get the sample. Pretty neat stuff. After that, we return back with the sample. Whatever the sample is, Sid enjoys it greatly, and while he was rambling, Volker, the leader of the Mithril Musketeers, shows up to do business with the president. But for now, we're told that Bastok is in great need of good people and walks out. Not much more to say past that, so we'll go to the next quest. We're given the mission to go to the Palbro mines to go kill some Quadovs and bring back some items as proof that we've done the job. It seems rather gruesome, especially since we know that the mines were their homes at some point and are trying to defend it. I originally did try to fight the Quadovs for the items, but the drop rate is so low, and after about 10 minutes of farming, I decided to check the auction house to see if it was there, but realized I didn't have the money for it. This left me with two options: sell more sparks to afford it, or try again with the farming. The first time I didn't have Thief on, so I didn't have Treasure Hunter. I figured trying again with Treasure Hunter would have been the better option, but even after more time farming, like 30 minutes, I was missing one item, so I decided to just bite the bullet and buy the last item. After spending way too much of my gil, we turn in the equipment. During our talk, we learned that someone named Wary has gone missing. Apparently, he lost his life during his, quote, rebirth. Some people in Ore Street are scared of something, but Iron Eater ultimately leaves us alone. The gate guard explains to us that we have to trade in crystals or do repeatable quests for the next mission. Of course, we do the classic and trade in more crystals. Our next quest talks about some craigs, big structures in certain parts of the world. I believe this is the first time that I've mentioned it in any video, so it's cool to finally see some more lore. These will eventually come up during a later expansion, but white mages can teleport you to one of these craigs, and it's a convenient way to get to some late game places. Back to Sid for more info. He gives us the simple instructions to trade a crystal into a craig, to get a faded crystal, and to return that to him. It's a pretty easy task, and when doing so, Sid says that it reminds him of a design from Beadu. Before we go, we get asked to turn in a report back to Naji, but Naji doesn't understand the report, so we get shipped off to Ayami instead. She thinks the company might be moving out soon, whatever that means, and sometimes she doesn't think that she deserves the role that was given to her, which is something that we can all feel sometimes. After that, we roll back out to the gate guard for the next quest. It's kind of a boring quest. Go get an item and bring it to a person. In this case, an egg that we can buy from the auction house to hand off to somebody in the president's office. Apparently, the guy is just hungry, but pretends it's for a serious thing. Also, he's late for turning in a report, which I assume was due a while ago. It seems the game knows that this is just filler, as Iron Eater here asks us if we think that this was just a waste of time, to which I say yes to, and he basically agrees, though he can't say it straight on. Regardless, he likes the work that we do. After that, it's the Three Nations quest again. Not even try to amp it up. First, we gotta talk to Naji, who finally lets us into the president's office. The president is pretty rude, but straight to the point, wanting to give us directions directly as well to make it easy for him. Of course, we're trying to investigate the other two nations, along with giving an olive branch. At the end, Naji lets it slip. He's in shock that Sid gave his vote to him during the election, which is pretty funny. Either way, we'll go to Sandy first, then end on Windurst, so that we have all the storylines shown. Once out at the embassy in Bastok, we meet Lion, who finds it weird that the orcs are suddenly getting high quality weapons and armor, along with passing out the rumor that there's royal family troubles, but she thinks that the fort that is quite close to Sandy should be dealt with first, instead of whatever they have going on behind closed doors. After that, we have a chat with Heliku, explaining that we have to go to Halver to get an official mission from Sandy, or else it will be seen as trespassing. Once talking to Halver, we get berated for being someone from Bastok, calling us oreheads, and that we are classless mobs that cannot stand shoulder to shoulder with Elvans. People really just be yapping the craziest things sometimes. Regardless, he says that we should go defeat a war chief in the Orcs camp, and if we're successful, come back. He didn't let slip he does not like foreigners loitering in the chateau. Time to head off to the Orc camp. This time, we have to actually scale the Orcs camp, which is a bit annoying. I forgot to press record again, but it was just a simple thunder spell to defeat the chieftain. It wasn't an instant fight. After that, we just walk back to the embassy to get told we did a good job and are officially certified as a Sandy adventurer. After that, it's on our way to Wendy. This time, the embassy is in Port Windurst, and we're told that Bastok doesn't believe in the truce with the Yagudos and the people of Windurst is real, but since they have to play nice, we have to help out. There's a monster that's been spotted deep in Gideus, and so we have to go help out the Yagudos and deal with the problem, as a way to show that we care. But first, we have to go to Heaven's Tower to pick up the key. QPP tells us the same thing that we were just told, and hands us the dark key to enter. This time, the fight starts with Seme being tricked into coming here, and Searcher says that he's ready to rally the Beastmen for fight, just like the Great War 20 years ago. The fight itself is as easy as ever, and Lion shows up to do the whole talk about the Dragon Lord being from the north and to report back to the embassy. Following her advice, we do just that. The embassy is actually terrified at the thought of the Shadow Lord returning, and tells us to hurry back with a report. Once back at the President's, he seems concerned about the potential return of the Shadow Lord, and Lucius also thinks that there's someone controlling the Beastman movements recently. But we did all that we can do, and I become rank 3. Back to the Gate Guard to trade in some crystals. We get our next quest. We're told that the Mithril Musketeers are planning an invasion on the Quadav, and they're calling all able adventurers. That's me. Before the debriefing starts, we catch a girl named Cornelia try to run off, presumably their president's daughter. She has people accompanying her whenever she leaves, but she decides that she wants to go alone this time before sprinting off. Continuing with our debriefing, we are to head into Biyadu and perform a small assault and defeat 20 Quadavs. Outside of that, we're on our own. That's a fairly simple objective and doesn't take us too much time. Once exiting Biyadu, we'll get a cutscene about us doing a good job, though Naji was a little late and Ayami is mad at him. The other 2 adventurers with us think that this was a bit of a nothing mission. The next mission will be doing the climb at Difficult Tower again, so fast tracking to Lucius. We get our orders to go to Juno, as after a unanimous vote, we're told that we're the best choice for the mission, but the quest is the same. Ambassador is missing the tower, and we gotta go find them. Skipping ahead to the end, we start Magicide again. I know I'm rushing through a bit, so this time I'll actually get the key items, instead of metagaming it for some added content. After talking to Aldo again, and getting the same talk, we'll get the first key item. The first one is the easiest one. Just trade some meat to a kid in Upper Juno. He needs it for his sister because she's sick or something. I think this is related to a side quest that we can do, but I got other things to do right now. We already got the torch in the first video from the goblin shop, so we can skip that one. The last one needed is a charm, which requires us to trade in some items to get it. The first enemy is some Headhunter Quadav, which is stationed in Biyadu. This didn't take much effort to defeat. After going further down the way, there's a Go Boo Gaston. You know that guy? He drops some shells. Once gathering both, we head over to the Tishendo, as there's a person there who's a collector who wants them because they're a collectible or something. Now with all the items, we no longer need to ask people for help. I'll just skip ahead to collecting the crystals. Once getting ranked up, we're told to head back immediately, and we do just that. As we're talking to the gate guard, we're told that we have to go talk to the president right away. Apparently, a familiar snuck through the defenses and stole a talisman that was being guarded to stop the Shadow Lord from coming back. Furthermore, they don't have time to talk with the Senate about sending the Mithril Knight into battle, as the investigation has to go underway right now. Some cool lore is that Valkyr is the son of Ulrich, who was once the leader of the Mithril Musketeers before the incident happened. Zoning into Feyen, we'll get a cutscene that we've already seen, then a fight. This time, Deity isn't here, so I had to pay a bit more attention. The fight went well enough as I didn't fail on the first try, though I'm so surprised that magic does so little damage to the boss. But that's magic scaling versus physical scaling for you. Anyways, Zed yaps to us a bit about the same things, and then walks off. Once back, the president tries to talk to the Senate about attacking Castle Zaval, but we have to wait on that. Volker drops a bit more lore. He knew Zed, and he was actually supposed to be the captain, but since he ended up disappearing after the death of the Shadow Lord, Volker took his place instead. Though Zed was always the number 2 Mithril Musketeer, called Warcloud, but he didn't like that name much. Cool stuff, but we gotta hit up the gate guard one last time, trade in some crystals before we can start the final quest. The gate guard seems to already know about the plan and tells us to go talk to the president directly. We're told that the Senate refuses to enter any war, instead of pushing it off to the Sandorians to deal with, as it was their job to watch over the seal in the first place. But the president wants us to go to the Shadow Lord anyways, as it's the Bastok way to do things as you want. Volker gives us the rundown of the importance of having the Shadow Lord stopped, and he says that Sid, Valkyr, and Zed were all once fighters during the Great War, and took down the Shadow Lord themselves, which is pretty neat. And before we leave, Valkyr requests that should we see Zed, tell him that he has never bested Valkyr in a fight, and he wants to have a fight again. After that, it's the same old Shadow Lord fight. I actually died the first time, and after asking somebody in the LS for help once again, I was able to defeat the Shadow Lord. Once returning, some of the people debate whether or not we actually defeated the Shadow Lord, or if we just stopped the summon. as though trying to undermine us. Regardless, we go up a rank and get paid another cool 20k going straight into the bank. We get an additional cutscene after this. Valkyr doesn't actually know that Ulrich killed Cornelia, and that there's rumors that Ulrich only became the captain because of Ragnarum's disappearance, not due to any skill. Sid also tells us 15 years ago there was an incident in the Palbora mines, which is why it's currently closed off, and they only use the Zerun mines now. Outside of that, we finish the story for Bastok, and I've reached the end of the video. I like the themes of Bastok, and the lore is really interesting, but the missions were very boring, to the point where it felt like it was unfinished, but it's fine. I'm just glad to finally have it finished. I don't really recommend to do all the 3 nation main story quests. To start the next expansion, you only have to beat the Shadow Lord once, so the other 2 times are more for getting all the lore, if you really care for it. I am planning on circling back to the rest of the main storylines at a later video, as we have other things to do. It'll probably be another addendum video like this. With that being said, we'll get our airship past to Kazam, and we'll start the first major expansion, Rise of the Zilart.